Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 22nd meeting of the 145th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. It's great to be here again on such a beautiful night outside, and a crowd in the gallery and a crowd in the lobby here. Let's go ahead and see if there's any disclosures of interest from any of the members. Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? We don't have to vote on minutes. Sorry, I was on disclosures of interest. We're about to go to minutes. But before we do, Madam Clerk, I want to remind our folks at home that Councillor Baldwin-Sands is online tonight. And Laurie, I'll remind you to give a good wave and put your hands up when you have something you have to say. Perfect. All right, now minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on July the 14th, 2025 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business, no deputations this evening. Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee is Strategic Direction and Development. First item relates to Built for Zero Canada Homelessness Reduction Innovation Fund Service Agreement. I have a motion that report SESS 1625 relating to the Built for Zero Canada Homelessness Reduction Innovation Fund Service Agreement be received for information, and further, the Council direct that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the Mayor and Clerk to execute the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness Service Agreement for the Reaching Home Canada's Homelessness Strategy Homelessness Reduction Innovation Fund as it relates to the federal contribution of $448,000 for the creation of a new chronic homelessness prevention program. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I got a couple comments for the team on this one. Just for people at home, this is about hiring people to support people who get housing so they are not leaving that housing and losing that. So my question is, a couple of them is, will this team be monitoring for like meds and things like that? Is this team, going in and saying, hey, this place is a mess, you got to clean it up? Like what are they doing? Are they saying to them, hey, you're required to go to a certain program? Are you going to it? Are we, to what extent is that happening? And I guess my general question is, do we have stats on how many times somebody needs to be housed and lose housing before they're kind of permanently housed? Like, is it because obviously the first time they get housed after not being housed for a couple of years, they might not be able to handle it for many different reasons. So in general, are people going in and out 2 or 3 times before they're permanent? So those are just some of the questions I had. I think it's a great program because getting housing is one thing, but keeping people housed is a whole different thing. So thank you.
Ms. Nielsen, happy to have you here tonight. You've got a lot to unpack in Councillor Wookey's first question.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Thank you for your question, Councillor Wookey. To answer it, so I'll start with your first question around what types of supports are being provided. And essentially, the focus for these 2 new positions will be to identify anything that might be jeopardizing the housing stability of people who have been recently housed out of chronic homelessness. Having said that, so for example, your question around medication, these staff wouldn't necessarily administer medication, but they could work collaboratively throughout the community with professionals who are qualified to provide those types of supports and work to get them connected in a way that creates a bit of a circle of care around the individual. So that could be support for behavioral issues, guest management issues, struggling with their budget and ability to pay rent, mental health and physical health, disconnection, loneliness, depression. It really could be a whole gamut of issues that are affecting or jeopardizing their potential housing stability. So these staff would step in and attempt to get supports attached. For your second question, that's related to sort of stats that we might have on how often people move in and out of homelessness. So to your first point about does this take 2 or 3 chances or opportunities, sometimes it does. So we never want to close the door. If someone is unsuccessful in a match, they're still on our radar and we're looking for another opportunity to support that person when they're ready and hopefully something that maybe better suits their needs. We do see people who exit out of homelessness and return back to homelessness, and that is part of why we want to pilot this new project to see if having these additional supports in place can help us to not only end an occurrence of homelessness, but then to sustain it for the person.
Good. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Danielle. A couple of questions. I see this is 2 additional 12-month contracted, so this is only 2 people for 1 year? Or for 1 year?
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so is there, because 1 year, they're just going to get their teeth into it, is there a chance to be expanded to another year? Or do you have that information, or you'd have to apply for a second year? And a third part of the question, is this coming from your addition, from your staff, or you're bringing 2 new people into to do this?
Yes, so what we're aware of through this new funding that's being referred to as HRIF funding from the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness is that there will be a total of 5 rounds of funding available to apply for. It will require applying each time that new round is available, and our understanding from our partners at Built for Zero, which is part of the Canadian Alliance, is that they're hoping to build off of what's learned through each project and help it to grow and expand in a way that's best matched to the community's needs. This will become part of my housing team. It would be 2 new additional staff. And over time, our intention is to create a team that is not only functionally ending homelessness, but then sustaining that end. So over time, we'll see a shift, from needing resources to the extent that we do currently with our emergency shelter and with our street outreach team, to needing resources that are focused more on housing stability and supportive housing for the folks that we're moving out of homelessness.
Councillor Taylor.
Sorry about that. In the report, it talks, if you can just clarify for me, then the March 2025, 125 households were listed in the by names list, and 106 were identified as experiencing chronic homelessness. How do those 2 numbers relate to one another, 124 and 106? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Taylor. So the total number would be the higher number that you mentioned. I don't know if it's 125 or 124. And then within that number, 106 of those individuals are experiencing chronic homelessness, which is defined as experiencing homelessness for 6 months or longer. So they're within that total number, not in addition to that number.
You have a follow-up?
The other 18 are, what are they called? What class are they in, or what?
Actively homeless.
Actively homeless.
Further questions or comments for Ms. Nielsen? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Daniel.
Next item relates to a community improvement plan project for the property at 105 Metcalfe Street. I have a motion that report PD 4025 relating to a community improvement project by Stephen Rubacha and Brittany Dunlop for 105 Metcalfe Street be received for information, and further the council approve a heritage design grant and heritage tax relief grant for application 2025-152 as submitted by Stephen Rubacha and Brittany Dunlop for 105 Metcalfe Street. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the CIP? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to another CIP grant for the property at 109 Ross Street. I have a motion that report PD 3925 relating to the Community Improvement Program grant for 109 Ross Street be received for information, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a Community Improvement Program grant agreement with Aya Hamu relating to CIP application 2024-141. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to the proposed amendment to the St. Thomas official plan for a community planning permit system. I have a motion that report CMO 3725 relating to the proposed amendment to the St. Thomas official plan for a community planning permit system be received for information. And further, the council authorized staff to prepare an amendment to the St. Thomas official plan for a community planning permit system. And further, that a public meeting be scheduled for September the 8th, 2025, in accordance with Ontario Regulations 545/06 and 545/06, 543 and 545, as amended. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the permitting system? Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. To staff, and I look forward to the public meeting on this. But as we consolidate this process and bring it down to, I think it was a 45-day window, all these steps that are currently in place where the public has the ability to engage in the decision-making process, all those steps that are currently in place and with this new CPPS, will the public have that same ability to provide input to us as a council and to staff in the decision-making process?
A new guest speaker tonight. Brandon, good to have you here.
Yes, thanks and good evening. So I'm Brandon Sloan, Housing Accelerator Fund Coordinator, and through the worship to the councillor. The important part of establishing the community planning permit system is when that bylaw is created, that's the big time for the public to be involved, the landowners, public, and surrounding ones. And that decision comes to council. You're setting essentially the parameters of the zoning, the development standards, the box that the development could be in, the criteria, and any variations that could come from that. That's a big part of that process. After that, when a permit comes in, if that development ticks all those boxes and fits in there exactly in the bylaw that council's approved, then it's just, a staff approval of a permit. If it varies considerably or more than that, then there is public notice. And if it goes pretty far, so there's different classes. If it goes very far, then it comes back to council, public notification.
Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Brandon, for that answer. So is there a mechanism for appeal to a decision? Right now, if we make a OP or zoning bylaw amendment, there is that ability. I don't think Bill 23 has totally taken away the public's right, but I think there is some ability to have a decision appealed to that lovely unelected, appointed, unaccountable body known as the Land Tribunal. So does that right still exist?
Through your worship to the councillor, we do, of course, really like local decisions. It is something that we can present and confirm a little bit more when we present on September 8th and when the bylaw comes to council about this. There are, the province has changed the rules about what's appealable, as you've referenced. So there's certain prescribed bodies and persons that can appeal decisions. A key piece is they would have to make a written comment or an oral deputation. The key piece, I think, would be that's a little bit more about the community planning bylaw. So this step right now, we're just doing the policies, and then the next step is the bylaw. That would be the time for the public really to be involved. If there's an application that is different or varies the permit, I think that's what we'd have to confirm is what rights does the public have for any appeal of that. There are some rights of the landowner. So I think it's a little bit of a gray area. I don't know if my planning colleagues have anything more than that, but that's something that we could review further. It's a good question. As we go in the bylaw, there's the bylaw itself and the appeal rights, and then is there anything after that? It's meant to be smooth. It's meant to be, here's an application, it goes through, and there's somewhat minimal involvement.
Brendan, just before you go, I recognize some of this is simply condensing a policy or change to policy, but I also believe we're getting a lot better at how we tell people we're having public meetings. The transparency growth is, I know in talking to Rebecca, we've talked a lot from a communications point of view that when we have a public meeting, let's make it so that people come if they have this as one of their issues. Obviously, we don't need them if they don't, but just the communication of our public meetings be expanded. Are you saying the same thing?
To your worship, yes, that's good to hear. And just also in addition, and there's some reference in this report and the next report, we're also going to be hosting a public information center, August 27th. Some notice is going to go out this week, in addition to that September 8th meeting. So that'll be August 27th, 4:30 to 6:30 here at City Hall, room 304.
Perfect. Thanks for pre-announcing it. See, we got it covered now. Thank you very much. Further questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to proposed amendments to the St. Thomas Official Plan Zoning Bylaw and Community Improvement Plan for additional residential units. I have a motion that reports CMO 3825 relating to proposed amendments to the St. Thomas Official Plan Zoning Bylaw and Community Improvement Plan for additional residential units be received for information, and further, the council authorize staff to prepare amendments to the St. Thomas Official Plan Zoning Bylaw and Community Improvement Plan for additional residential units, and further that a public meeting be held on September the 8th, 2025, in accordance with Ontario Regulations 543/06 and 545/06 as amended. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey?
Thanks. Just a comment for staff. I was reading where it said, it is proposed to be amended with the definitions and that a detached ARU maximum floor area is no more than 50% of the main dwelling. And I thought that was kind of interesting because I was just reflecting on my own background. I grew up in a tiny home on Mandeville Road, like a tiny home with 4 big people in it that was a small home on a big lot. So I think it's kind of interesting because 50% of that home would be a very small home. So I think this is kind of an odd number. I'd like to see it not be so prescribed in a sense of you could have small homes that with lots of property that 4 of the same size could actually fit on it comfortably without interfering with the neighbors. And that's just simply my comment about that. Of course, we're going to have a public meeting and talk about this further. But that struck me just because of my own background of how I grew up and what it looked like. I was thinking about what additional units would go on that property. It could easily, 2 same-size homes could easily go on that property. So that's just my comment for that, and I'll look forward to the public meeting. Thank you.
Great. Further questions or comments? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just looking for some clarification on the additional dwelling units or residential units that are identified in here. I'm trying to visualize a 2-story, 3-bedroom home on a residential lot, which now will allow 3 extra additional units, basement, 2nd floor, perhaps a unit above the garage. So now we have 4 units on a residential lot, and it does say that every additional residential unit requires 1 parking space. Those typical 40 by 110 foot lots, where is the parking? It does say something about allowing parking in the rear yard. So does that mean we're going to pave the backyards in order to have 4 parking spaces or an extra 2 if there's 2 in the driveway? And second follow-up to that is the dollars that are coming. We're increasing the amount of money in the CIP program from, I can't remember, like $7,500 to $12,500 per unit, and a loan from $12,500 to $15,000. Is that coming from this federal housing accelerator, just the addition, or is it coming from our city budget? Thank you.
Good question. I see we have an expert approaching the microphone again. So, Brandon?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the first question on visualizing, to help with that, we do have a guidebook which does have some diagrams in it, and the format's being updated and more inclusive, that shows how that structurally could happen. Your questions are a good one, practically, about parking and the other things to happen. And that may be a little bit of why we haven't really seen a large uptake, even when we went to 3 units as of right. There's only been 3 actually in the last 2 years. And parking has been cited as one of those things, is how do you fit that on there? It is permitted to be in tandem, so they could be one in front of the other. Could be logistically some challenges for property owners to do that. That might be the case, that if there were up to 4 units on a lot, that some may look at putting a small little parking lot between the house and if there was, just in the backyard or with a detached additional residential unit in the back. It would still have to meet all our zoning standards and hopefully have some landscaping, but that is a potential that some could look to put 3 or 4 parking spaces in the back. We haven't really seen a lot of uptake. We don't know if we'll see too much of this, but it is one of those federal requirements of our HAF grant to check this box and do this, one of their top priorities. Second question is, yes, this would be coming from the Housing Accelerator Fund for expanding the programs in the CIP.
Great. Councillor Peters, then Councillor Clark.
Well, thanks very much, Worship. When council first dealt with this and all these conditions that the Accelerator Fund put on, I had some real concerns. And those concerns have not gone away. The concerns I had when the province implemented Bill 23 that allowed us to go to 3 units on a property. And now we're going to 4 units of property. And I really would encourage the public to come out and have their say in this, because I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. This can fundamentally change a neighborhood. A neighborhood with 180-foot deep lots and 60-foot frontage that is predominantly single-family homes now can have up to 4 units. And I have real concern over the loss of control that we are having as a council in the decision-making process on this. I'm, as much as I encourage and want to see new development, I don't like to see this new development happen at the expense of good established neighborhoods, or any established neighborhood for that matter. And as I say, this has the ability to change a neighborhood. Who's going to guarantee, one of my questions beyond the parking question, who's going to guarantee that, or how are we going to guarantee that there's adequate services available to a site? Are there going to be 4 water lines going in and 4 sewer lines going in? Or is this one sewer line that maybe in an older neighborhood that already, is a bit compromised because of the 150-year-old maple tree that is outside, and now all of a sudden we're going to add 3 more units to this? A small diameter water line going into that single family unit. How are we going to guarantee? So I have a number of concerns about this. And as I say, as much as I want to see growth, I don't like seeing the growth happen at the expense of other things. Thank you.
Point on that, Brendan?
Thanks, through your worship, to the councillor. We do have opportunity for more discussion on this at the September 8th public meeting. We can provide some more information and present at that time. And as we consider any bylaw, I would just, a quick commentary is that, to be honest, I initially shared a lot of those concerns when this first came up with the federal government doing kind of a broad brush approach to looking at this 4 units as of right. The more they've kind of looked into it, the more you're looking at the properties, the investment that it would take to add that many units. Talking to a lot of folks that are in the development industry, et cetera, really, there's not a huge uptake on the 4 units, to be honest. A financially feasible project is a little bit more at the 6 to 8 units to make a go of it. There is the potential to look at existing neighborhoods that have large lots. Like, there is the possibility if you can fit the parking, you can do an addition, you might be able to put some more units. But so far we're seeing like a conversion to allow a basement unit maybe. There haven't been too many to go to 3. We're not sure what the uptake to go to 4 really is at this point in time. It doesn't look like there's a considerable amount, but it is something to monitor and look at for sure. The second part about servicing, my understanding is the St. Thomas approach so far, and we can further dialogue about this, is that adequate servicing does need to provide it. Obviously, it has to be municipal services, adequate for that many units. Typically, I think it's one line in, and then you can go with separate meters from there. Although there may be the potential for a separate connection, but it's subject to approval through our fine city engineer.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just wondering if we're aware of other municipalities who have changed their parking requirements and their bylaws to encourage, more parking at the front of the lot for one or two units. Have we seen any of that happening?
Through Your Worship, to the councillor, so far parking has been pretty limited, and it's kind of regulated of the number of spaces that you can do. The location you could look at where that is. Many municipalities stay away from front yard parking. They either have design guidelines or even zoning that doesn't allow for your whole landscape front yard to be taken up by parking. It's usually directed a little bit more to your driveway, or you may have a double wide driveway and you can get two cars in, or allowing that potential to have a small little parking spaces behind the house. It's usually the opposite, not the front yard. Although you may see everybody do that on the street. It could really change the streetscape character.
Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
But it would be a local decision.
Through Your Worship, yes, that would be the council decision of how we regulate the parking location and design.
So I guess, if municipalities are serious about infill, then they're going to have to address that.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next two items are notices from the Committee of Adjustment relating to, the first one relates to a notice of decision for the property at 49 Steele Street. That the committee has permitted a porch 3.88 meters from the front lot line, whereas the minimum front yard depth is 6 meters, and to permit eaves and an eaves trough to project an additional 0.6 meters into the front yard, whereas the minimum setback from the front lot line is 5.25 meters. The second one relates to a minor variance at 6 Pine Street, and this is notice of a public meeting to take place on August 14th at 10 a.m. regarding minor variance by Catherine Wade to permit the reconstruction of an uncovered porch 2.75 meters and porch steps 1.91 meters from the front lot line, whereas the minimum is 4.5 meters, and that's for property at 6 Pine Street. Your Worship, that concludes the items for this committee, unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into community engagement and services. The first item relates to an update on community sport and recreation infrastructure funding. I have a motion that report PRF 2925 relating to an update on community sport and recreation infrastructure funding be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Well, this looks like old news to us for the last couple of years. When I look at it, according to the, to get the grant, we have to be shovel ready. When you look at the response from the government, they basically say we're not ready. So how do we get to get shovel ready to apply for the grant? How are we going to be approved for the grant if we're not shovel ready, which means location and plans? I mean, we talk about this last couple of years. We're just not there yet to get the grant. I would think if we're shovel ready and plans in place, then we'd have a shot at getting the grant. So anyway, it's the same old information we've been getting the last time we talked. We're not ready. Anyway, Adrian, what do you think? Thank you.
Please.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Herbert, for this application, we did have a design done for the pickleball court. So this was a smaller project. Just unfortunately, we weren't successful in getting the funding for this, but we do actively search out grants to apply for. And as we work on the feasibility study for the Community Recreation Center, we'll work towards having designs ready for applications for those as well.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none? Sorry, Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you
I
so
looked
very
everywhere
much.
but your way. Go ahead.
I do have a question for Adrian, if she could come back to the mic if
She's
possible,
coming up
please.
now.
Thank you. One is a question and the rest is for council's information. To the director, has there been an opportunity to debrief with ministry staff in regards to this application that was put forward?
Through your worship to Councillor Baldwin Sands, we haven't spoken directly to her about it, but I can certainly follow up to get more information. I think it came down to the fact that there was too many applications for the money they had allotted.
And hopefully we'll be able to do some follow-up at AMO as well, if we keep that on our radar. Thank you. May I proceed with my second question?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. We are scheduled to meet again to review some things with the consultant on Tuesday, August 26th. Would you like to update council on that, Adrian?
Through your worship to council, we have scheduled a meeting with the consultant of Monteith Brown to sit down and go over the results of the community recreation feasibility study, in hopes that we can give council an update as to where that is headed from the results from the public.
Perfect. Anything else, Councillor Baldwin Sands?
No, thank you very much.
Perfect. I'm looking, like you, I'm looking forward to more conversation at AMO too. So, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to new childcare startup funding grant agreement. I have a motion that report SCSS 1725 relating to the new childcare startup funding grant agreement be received for information, and further, council endorse the use of the startup agreement to support new licensed childcare providers to enter the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system in St. Thomas Elgin, and further that authority be delegated to the Director of Social Services to execute these agreements subject to provincial guidelines and annual budget allocations. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to a road closure request for the Orange Shirt Day flag raising ceremony. I have a motion that report ES 3025 relating to the Orange Shirt Day flag raising ceremony road closure request be received for information, and further, the council authorize the closure of the road sections identified within report ES 3025 on Tuesday, September the 30th, 2025, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. to allow for the Orange Shirt Day flag raising ceremony. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a request for animal control bylaw exemption for the St. Thomas Optimist Children's Festival. I have a motion that report ES 2925 relating to the St. Thomas Optimist Children's Festival request for animal control bylaw exemption be received for information, and further that a temporary exemption from section 6.1 of the Animal Control Bylaw 71-2011 be granted to the St. Thomas Optimist Children's Festival event organizers to permit a reptile show at the September 13th, 2025 event at Optimist Park. Moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for free transit for the Accessibility 2025 open house. I have a motion that report ES 2825 relating to the Accessibility 2025 open house free transit request be received for information, and further, the council waive the transit fee for riders traveling to and from the Accessibility open house at Joe Thornton Community Center on Friday, September 26, 2025. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items for this committee, unless the members have any further items. We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to Veterans Memorial Crosswalk. I have a motion that report ES 3225 relating to the Veterans Memorial Crosswalk be received for information, and further the council authorize the installation of the Veterans Memorial Crosswalk on the south leg of the Talbot Street and Moore Street intersection. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and everyone that was involved in ensuring that we have this great memorial walk in our community today. It's really significant, and what a great opportunity to include also the QR information center that we're going to be having with it as well. So I'm really looking forward to having this done, and hopefully everyone will come out and take a look at it and come for Remembrance Day. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Taylor.
And the drawings that we saw, thank you, Your Worship, had a number of different locations, and the motion, I think, says the south leg of Moore and Talbot. Where is this going? Is it at the corner of Moore and Talbot? Is that where it's going?
Yes.
Which I think is the north. Is that the north leg, the north section of Moore?
There is already a crosswalk there, but I'll let Kevin explain.
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, figure 1 in the report will help illustrate that it's on the north side of Talbot Street, but on the south side of Moore. So it's at the south end of Moore Street, which is at Talbot Street. So it's at the intersection of Talbot and Moore in the east-west direction. Okay, so in that site location map that you were referencing, it wasn't one of the sites identified. Okay. Does that help?
You have further? Okay. Thank you. Further questions or comments on the crosswalk? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to Burwell Road widening at Talbot Street. I have a motion that report ES 3125 relating to Burwell Road widening at Talbot Street be received for information, and further that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the execution of an agreement between 217-2158 Ontario Limited and the City of St. Thomas to acquire road widening for the installation of a sidewalk. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I apologize for asking this question. It's kind of related, not related. I love getting the Center Street updates on the construction projects and what's going on. And I'm kind of hoping that we can get this done for the Fairview Talbot one. And even if it's not every week, because I know it's a massive project, even if we don't get them every week, every couple of weeks, if we could get an update, because people ask me like, what's going on? What's the timeline for the bridge? I see that. So if we could get that out, and if, me as the assistant city engineer is not getting these updates and everybody else is, I kind of feel bad about that. But anyway, that's just my request. I think it'd be very handy for everybody in the public. Thanks.
I'm just going to suggest to the assistant deputy other engineer, you can always visit the engineering staff too.
They get sick of seeing me.
Yeah. Please. Let us know, can we have updates on it too? I keep getting them from other people who are taking pictures, right? And we've done a good job too, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the mayor to Councillor Wookey, there are regular updates that are posted via email. We do them on a request basis. So somebody provides their email address to the project technologist in charge of that project. They'll be circulated every week.
Okay,
and we can easily add the rest of council on there if they desire.
It's a big project and it's really going now with the knockdown of the bridge and such. Are we having a lot of people going and visiting it? Is there a safety issue?
Not that I'm aware of. When the bridge came down, there was a few people visiting from the sidelines. There's some parking lot there in the Sinclair Ave, of course, as well. But we haven't had any problems that way.
Okay, great. Further questions or comments on the Burwell project? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Clark.
Just while we have staff there, just maybe we get a verbal update as to how things are going. Are we on schedule? Has there been any hiccups? People are kind of interested.
And on budget? No. Please.
Sure, I'm happy to provide an update through the mayor to Councillor Clark and the rest of council. The project is still on schedule. We're working through to the completion of phase 1, which is the deep underground on the north side. They were installing the very big manhole at the right in the middle of the intersection for the storm sewer today. And once that underground work is done, they'll pave that side and switch traffic over so they can do the north side. So we are on schedule. We're working the way to a completion in October, but we'll see how the rest of the project goes. So
Keep us posted, please. Further questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands, did you have one? I didn't look at the right time before. Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items for this committee, Your Worship, unless there are any further items from the members. And seeing none, we'll now move into corporate governance and administration. Nothing on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members. Your Worship, seeing none, at this time, council will reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. One report this evening relating to accessible parking advocacy. I have a motion that report MAAC 0125 relating to accessible parking advocacy be received for information. And further, the council support the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee in submitting a letter to the province advocating for clearer and increased requirements relating to accessible parking. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions and comments of support of our committee? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that. I'm trying to understand, I don't know if there's anybody here to answer my question, but type A and type B accessible parking spaces. On Talbot Street, we have accessible parking spaces. Are they A or B style?
Councillor Gibson, you're on that committee. Can you answer that question?
Yes, my understanding, they're all A's, A is for vans and B is for cars. I had to check with John. So A is for vans and B is for cars. And I do believe they're all wide enough for a van, just because there's just much more room for them. Right, John? Yeah. Sorry. I just have to make sure I'm right on this. It's just making sure, because some of the vans unload to the right or off the left and some do off the rear. So we just made sure there's space for all of them. So my personal, I wish they were all A, really, because there's not even a room for most of the cars that come in now, because they're bigger cars, SUVs with the extra trailers and accessibility ramps coming out. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I think that's what this letter is asking council to do, is support our accessibility committee on asking for a greater amount or further discussion on more accessible parking in our community.
Yeah, you're right, Your Worship. We're looking for some more space and making sure that maybe having all the spaces be under A rather than having an A and a B. Because whether it's an A or a B, anyone with that sign can park in those designated areas. So whether you have a car or a SUV or a van that has the ramp system in it, it doesn't really matter. So it just makes it more clarified, and it just makes everyone able to understand that you are able to park there. Because right now it's confused, because some people say, well, that's an A, we can't park there. Meanwhile, they can.
Okay.
So we're just asking for a few changes for the government and ensuring that with some of the, also we're looking at the infill. I mean, when you do a new complete build, you're to have that space, but there's a gray area there where if you have a home and you're adding 2 or 3 additional apartments or whatever, there's no requirement for to ensure that you have one accessibility parking. And we're just asking the government to look into that and review it and see where this can fit in with all the with the new legislation that's coming up. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next, we move into petitions and communications.
Councillor
I'm sorry.
Baldwin Sands, sorry.
I was hoping we could take a moment to update members of council on what was done at the Health Recruitment Committee this morning, because it's prior to going to the AMO conference, and there was another piece of good news that happened this morning that I'll defer to the city manager for. But I do want members of council to know that we did update our strategic plan at this morning's meeting. That includes some of the items on the incentive package that we need to take and do our advocacy piece when we are at AMO. And I know that we have some bylaws coming up that are very good news, but I was hoping the city manager could talk a little bit about the other good news that we shared this morning.
City manager, you're up.
Great, thank you. Through your worship to council, I'm pleased to inform that the health recruiter has located another physician to join our community. They'll be joining on September 1st. They applied for the full funding of $33,000. So you will see that report on the next agenda, but it's very exciting news that we've landed another physician. We also had interest from a nurse practitioner in accessing funds to also expand a private clinic. So I think our total is at 9 physicians this year and 1 nurse practitioner and possibly another. So great news all around.
Great. And we will have more conversation about this with the health ministry at AMO coming up next weekend. I know I'm counting on Councillor Baldwin Sands doing all that heavy lifting.
I'm prepared, sir.
Okay.
Your worship, if there's no further items, we'll now move into petitions and communications. First item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the Nameless Group. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim August 31st, 2025 as International Overdose Awareness Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Nameless flag be flown at City Hall from August 28th to September 1st, 2025, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on August 28th at 10 a.m., and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in purple from August 28th to September 1st in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Day. Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from Crime Stoppers. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim September 2025 as Crime Stoppers Awareness Month in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Crime Stoppers flag be flown at City Hall on September 8th, 2025, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on September 8th at 9 a.m. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim September 12th to 21st as Welcoming Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership flag be flown at City Hall for the week from September 15th to 21st, 2025, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on September 15th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation, flag raising, and jumbo lighting from Big Brothers Big Sisters. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim September 2025 as Big Brother Big Sister Month in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Big Brother Big Sister flag be flown at City Hall from September 15th to 21st, 2025, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in teal from September 15th to 21st in recognition of Big Brother Big Sister Month. Moved by Counselor Wookey, second by Counselor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for jumbo lighting from the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Canada. I have a motion that the jumbo monument be lit in blue for the week of September 22nd to 28th, 2025, in recognition of Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Moved by Counselor Wookey, seconded by Counselor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the St. Thomas Public Library. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim October 19th to 25th, 2025 as Ontario Public Library Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Libraries for Life flag be flown at City Hall from October 21st to 25th, 2025. Moved by Counselor Herbert, second by Counselor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
Next item, a letter has been received from the Railway City Music and Arts Festival requesting a grant to cover additional fees associated with using Pinafore Park for the festival. As the members may recall, a request had previously been made and council had already provided $3,500 of grant funds for this particular festival, and another letter has been submitted requesting the remainder amount of $3,122.87.
Councillor Clark?
I'd like to speak in favor of that and move it as a motion that we support the festival with the additional funds. I think it meets a number of our goals of our strategic plan, and it's a small investment that allows the citizens to enjoy a free event in the city, and that's part of what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson?
I agree with Councillor Clark. It's a very important event. It's very dear to my heart as it's an event that came from the Iron Horse Festival when it was on Talbot Street. Although it doesn't have all the rides, it certainly does bring the community together, and a lot of the local musicians in the community are coming in on this one, and I think it's very important that we make sure that everyone gets the chance to see the great entertainment we have here in St. Thomas. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder, but I don't think we have where the funds are coming from. So I see the treasurer here. Mr. Sheridan, is there enough money left in our grant pool?
Through you to council, yes, I believe there would be enough to cover this amount at the end. We're getting pretty close to the end, but I believe I also have another request coming soon, but I think there's enough for both of those.
All right, thank you. So with the mover and seconder, then can we add that it would come out of the council grants? Okay.
Your worship, if Councillor Gibson agrees to be the seconder, I have motion by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that council authorize a grant of $3,122.87 to the Railway City Music and Arts Festival to cover the remaining fees associated with the use of Pinafore Park.
Now I'm on to comments. Councillor Herbert first.
Thank you, Worship. This is obviously a great event for the city. I hope, I've heard in past years that some people don't seem to be get communication this event's taking place. So I'm not sure what their plans are to advertise it, but I hope they get it out there to the public that this is happening.
Well, thank you, Councillor Herbert, but we had their president on Mayor's Update all of last week. So, they're doing lots of social media, but you're right. The better we can advertise it and help them advertise it, the more people will be in Pinafore Park. Councillor Taylor, did I see your hand?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Typically, in past requests for grants, we would have seen a report from the city treasurer authorizing whether this qualified or not, but I don't see that report here tonight, and maybe that's what Mr. Sheridan is telling us that it does. But have we done this in the past, and is this an anomaly that will now set a precedent for next time? That they'll just simply ask for all of the funds back?
If I could speak to that, or perhaps the treasurer account, yes, we have done this before, but seems to be only on events like this where we do it. But and then we certainly follow up to see if there is enough funds left in that grant pool to do it. Mr. Treasurer, do we have precedent-setting history on having done this?
Through you to council. Just for the first question, the report for this event did come earlier in the year and it was approved at 3,500. So the event does qualify. As far as the additional money, it's happened in the past, and it's evaluated on an event basis on each application. So it's happened before. Whether it sets a precedent is up to council.
Further questions? Did I see Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. I know the treasurer said most of it right there, but when you look at it, council has the prerogative to do what council wants to do. And when you look at what's happening here with the festival being on the 14th, we're not going to meet again at that point. So if we don't act on it now, there's no opportunity. I think most of the time we would probably refer this back to staff for the report, but if we do that, then there's no chance on that happening. And meeting a key pillar in our strategic plan, I think it's a great thing for us to do.
Okay. Further questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. Have a great weekend.
Next item is a letter received from the Township of Zora regarding governance of the Thames Valley District School Board. Your Worship, that concludes the items under petitions and communications. Next order of business is unfinished business of council. If there are any items from the members. And seeing none, next order of business is new business of council. We have one item on the agenda under new business relating to alternative locations for the emergency shelter. And this was under a notice of motion that was moved by Councillor Taylor. Thank you. We have seconded by Councillor Peters. I'll just read the motion. That staff be directed to investigate potential sites in public or private ownership within the city that could be presented to non-for-profit operators as alternative emergency shelter locations, and further that staff be requested to confer with the management of the inn about their desirability to close the existing site and their capacity to relocate and operate at alternate sites, and further that any potential alternative emergency shelter site recommended fit the following criteria: be located 200 meters from schools and daycare facilities, be located outside the downtown business improvement area, comply with city zoning bylaws and official plan, contain or could be converted to contain green space setting, including a covered shelter facility with washrooms for protection from environmental factors, along with a secure space for the storage of personal possessions. And further, that all presented alternative emergency shelter sites further enhance and support the services provided by existing community partners, including by offering the following: primary care services, mental health services, addiction care and support, social services and employment support, housing, supportive housing access. And further, that alternative site acquisition and construction budget be set at $995,000 and funded from the infrastructure reserve. And further, that alternative sites for an emergency shelter be provided to council for referral to the Inn Board of Directors by November the 1st, 2025.
Questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship, for allowing me to place this motion on the agenda tonight. Thank you. As we know, the city's goal is to end homelessness, and I believe that goal is by 2027. But as I understand, to make the emergency shelter redundant and to close it, I haven't found anything on paper to actually state that. In August 2021, the St. Thomas conducted a homeless enumeration, identified 75 people as chronic homelessness, and updated in June of 2022 to 56. But tonight, under the Built for Zero presentation, we saw a number of 124 and 106 experiencing homelessness. But we've recently added 15 to the lofts, 45 units to the station, and that is 60 units. But according to statistics provided by the Inn, they stated that they've housed 111 people over the past 3 years. Yet the Inn continues to house approximately 41 people every night of the year. Now, I may be an optimist, but this number is not decreasing. Yet facilities like Tiny Hope and Eastwood and Balaclava are being developed. Congratulations to our city for doing that and to the folks that are involved in those projects. But it appears that there will still be a need for an emergency shelter, some sort of an intake option. So let's plan that tonight, please. The emergency shelter opened in our downtown in January of 2022, and we saw a change happen in our downtown, the way it was perceived by our downtown business and property owners and by the public. The implementation of the Special Constables Initiative, at least $1 million budget, is a direct result of this decision. And this topic is of concern, has been discussed numerous times in this council chamber, yet we are still at an impasse. The emergency shelter concept was well-intentioned in 2022 at a cost of approximately $1 million, and that's where I was advised by staff that $995,000 was the number for the motion tonight. But I've been informed that another $1 million has been spent on repairs and upgrades to the current emergency shelter. Yet it still has insufficient space for people to congregate, to store their possessions. There's no escape from the elements, resulting in a spillover and trespassing on the private property, and this is not acceptable in my view. It's time to reevaluate the needs of the emergency shelter, and we have an opportunity to do better. So my proposal tonight, of course, as you've just heard, is to allow our business and property owners some relief located in a non-commercial environment on a parcel of land with sufficient space for guests to store their possessions, the ability to find cover from the elements, and a green space instead of having to sit on frozen and scorching concrete and pavement. So in conclusion, I'm asking my fellow councillors to support this motion and find a way to relocate, improve, and enhance the services of the current emergency shelter. And if I may, Your Worship, I would respectfully request a recorded vote on the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Go ahead.
Based on your comments about the improvements that were made, the total then would be about $2 million. And I think we're just asking, if we're asking staff to try and find something that's going to be within the 900 and 9,500,000, we might as well just, we're wasting their time. They're not going to find something at that price with all the amenities that you're requesting. So I think we either need to change that part of the motion to be practical, or it's a waste of time. The other thing, I don't know if November 1st is a realistic. I don't have any problem with investigating things, but I don't know if November 1st is a realistic timeline in terms of what do we really need. We're right in the middle of doing the Balaclava Street project, and until we get that done and get those people housed and take a look at who's on our list and what size the list is going to be in the future, then we'd have a better idea of knowing what we need in the future for the inn. So I just don't know if the timing is correct. I guess we can go ahead and look at things, but I'm not sure we'll get a clear idea of what we need. It has not been an ideal location, as you've referenced, but it has been a needed one, and we were behind the 8 ball when the church, which generously donated their space for a number of years, needed that space back, and we had government funding that had to be used within a certain timeline, and there was limited funds, and so we did the best that we could at the time. It's not ideal, but it is meeting the needs of the people that are there, and so I just don't know whether or not it's practical to move forward with this when we're talking about a budget that's only at $1 million?
If I, go ahead, Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I concur with Councillor Clark. At the end of the day, I think there's no perfect spot for a place like this. Unfortunately, it's a need in our community that's required. And at the end of the day, with what Councillor Clark said, to provide a building with the services and amenities that are requested in here, we're only wasting staff's time right now, which they don't have the time to waste on this. I think we need to continue to focus on providing housing to hopefully eventually close this and no longer need to be a landlord of the inn for this. So myself, I'm going to vote against this because I don't think we have the time, or staff has the time to investigate this as is. And at the end of the day, if we don't have an alternative site that has all those amenities like that, all we're going to do is create an issue in two different locations, because the people that require these services will continue to come downtown where they're provided if we can't afford to do it all in one place. And at the end of the day, the price tag would probably exceed $4 or $5 million if we're going to build a building and then provide these services well within it. But again, if hopefully there's somebody out there that maybe has the money to offer this to the board, and the board decides to move, and then we can provide more housing within that space for people. But at the end of the day, I certainly don't want to see staff wasting a time on something like this, because there's no way they're going to come back within that budget.
Thank you. Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. I want to echo a few things that have been said. When I read this report, and I'm not trying to be mean and kidding, I thought there was a zero missing. Like, I know what $995,000 represents, but to get what we want there, it would be closer to, like, honestly, $10 million. And I think that we're kind of out of sequence on what's going on, as Councillor Clark is saying. I want to say that years ago, there was an issue that was really upsetting me on council. This is like 10 years ago. And I went off and did research on my own for a month. It was about a grant we were giving, and I was very upset about it. And I went out and did a bunch of research, and I came back with a recommendation for that board. The board wasn't very happy about what I said, but I did the work, and I came back with a recommendation, and that board didn't like it. My point here is that I believe this is a hand grenade for staff. I think we all in this room know what land we own, and we know what land's available, like, and you know, location, price availability. We could buy any land in town. Somebody could buy with $10 million, I suppose, and do this. So I think that we all know what we have, and we all know what could be available. I'm not sure we need the staff to do a report on this. I would appreciate it if the councillors who want to see a change simply they do the work and they come back to us, and we'd be pleased to listen to it. I'm guessing the people at the inn would love to have a new location. They'd love to have a new location. We'd love them to have a new location. And I think that I don't want to dump this on staff. And we know that this is going to be social services. Like, we know this is Ms. Sheridan's department that's going to do this. So I just think that, you know, I would love to see a new location. I think it's going to be $10 million. I think it's out of sync on the order in which we're doing this. For those reasons, I will not be supporting it, but I would certainly be pleased to listen to my colleagues when they do their research and they come back to us to talk about where you think it should be. And I'd love to hear what they come up with. Thank you.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I know a few years ago, I did my ride along a couple of times, actually 3 times with the police. And on obviously the topic of discussion, what are we doing with the inn? And they said they really feel it doesn't matter where they move it. If you move it off Talbot Street is their home. That's where they're coming back. And they'll come back to Talbot Street. And remember, a few years ago, we talked about the Memorial Arena was thrown out, I think, somewhere, maybe move something in that area. And then there was big problem about the new path we put in. They'd be up and down that path all the time, causing problems. So I have to agree with my councillors that it's a tough issue where to put it. And but Talbot Street is their home, bottom line. They're always coming back to Talbot Street, the emergency people. So anyway, thank you.
Further questions or comments? I have some. Go ahead, Councillor Peters. I'll go after you.
Thanks very much, Worship. I will support this. I did have a problem, and I expressed it to Councillor Taylor right from when I saw this of clause number 5, the dollar figure. I would just had assumed or had wished it was not in it, but I will accept it. I'll choose my words. I think one of the great things that we all possess as politicians, which the greatest asset we all have, is 20/20 hindsight. And a decision was made by a previous council, a decision that was made by a previous council. And there are other options that could be available. I can think of perhaps, let's just say, around the police station, vacant city land. Perhaps we could construct a modular building similar to what has been done in northern communities. I've been in Attawapiskat. I've stayed in a modular building. There are other options that are out there. And the council of the day made a decision on this location. And at the time when the decision was made, I expressed some concerns, and many of those concerns are coming true today. The impact that it was going to have on neighboring businesses, the impact that it would have within the core. And the argument, I don't buy the argument that we have to be in the core because all the services are in the core. The vast majority of the services that the residents of the inn are utilizing are actually right within the inn. There are maybe some ancillary services that are downtown, but I don't think that that argument that it has to be right in the core where it is hold a lot of weight. I think it is incumbent on us as a council, and I can't. I've had a long-standing issue of shopping carts. Did you drive by today on your way to council meeting tonight?
I did.
And we have not been able to solve the problem of trying to find some storage for shopping carts. That's been from day one. Do we need the inn? Of course we need the inn. I'm not going to say that we don't, but we do need to provide some services. But I do not believe that that is the best location to be providing those services, and hence why I will support the motion this evening to have staff move forward to look at alternatives, look at options, and bring that back to us as a council. Thanks, Your Worship.
I'll go. Look, we're looking for perfection in a time when perfection, as more than one councillor said tonight, is not available to us. We're at a time when we have homelessness as a crisis in this country, and this council's been able to do work that make it where St. Thomas stands out from a homelessness and emergency shelter point of view as a kind of guiding light to many other communities. We've got under construction Balaclava and the Tiny Hope project to finish, and the Eastwood project that will be another number of apartments assigned to us. I want to say, first of all, that we've also been able to attract many number of grants to help the inn become an even better and better emergency shelter. But the true end of the day, we'd like it to be gone. We'd like us to solve our homelessness problem at the same pace as we're solving. Could we solve it faster? This council wants to put this money towards more housing. I'm happy to do it. But we've been moving as forward and as fast as we can on supportive housing in order to make it so that our emergency shelter becomes almost non-existent. Every community will have to have a very small emergency shelter for those that are temporarily unhoused that night or for a couple of nights. But I'm proud of where we're at, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I thank this council for the hard work it's done on that. Even on this, I mean, I know that that Councillor Taylor and I talked at length about getting this written right so that it could come to council and be an absolute recommendation. I would rather, if at all possible, council, that we vote no to this, because I'd like our housing people to be spending a great deal of time helping homelessness and finding spaces for them, rather than out doing research projects on a shelter, an emergency shelter we may not need. I'll speak to the DDB too and the downtown board, and Earl and you and I both know we've both served on it since we were young children. But we probably have the least amount of vacancy in the downtown we've had in my lifetime of over 30 years in this community. And so I get what we've done to also address that, from the special constable program through what we've been doing with Indwell. And the Indwell buildings are fairly well accepted and quite well policed. And I expect Balaclava will be the same. Look, and I ask you to, let's leave the money in the bank. Let's leave the staff time with working on homelessness, and let's work towards, look, Ms. Sheridan gets really mad at me when I try to predict when we get to zero. And one of our other issues tonight was built to zero, is how to get to built to zero using the housing funds that are available to us. I just feel good that it's, a year and a half away from us, the start of 2027. We're absolutely at homeless removal in our community if we, and I don't think we should stop there. I think we should build at least one or two more buildings. They can be affordable buildings if indeed we don't need them as supportive housing buildings. But I'd rather put our efforts into that type of housing than finding a new home for something that is mostly working. It's not perfection, but boy, it's to the number of people that stayed there last night, it's excellence. Right? To the number of people that stayed there on the coldest night of the year in February this year, it's as good as it could be in our community, and it wasn't available in other communities. So I asked you to say no, but to keep your eyes open and ears open, and our staff to keep their eyes and ears open. If we find something that can meet the perfection of an emergency shelter, we want to be there. But I really don't want us spending the time and money to work on it right now. Let's continue to work on removing homelessness from the city of St. Thomas and make it that strong of a community that way. And I think that we're better off if that's the case. Earl, do you want to fit? Yep, I thought you might. Please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nobody wants to see homelessness come to zero,
Right,
more than I do. But I want to remind you of the statistics that we saw. In August of 2021, we had 75 identified as homeless. Tonight, we heard there's 124 households and 106 homeless. That task to getting to zero is tremendously complicated.
Yes.
And we're going the opposite direction. But I was hoping that our council would support the idea of our downtown business and property owners and moving it away from our downtown. Yes, you are right. There are many, many businesses, and I've leased out 2 properties myself in the last week for new businesses coming into our downtown. And that's a sign of the times. Small businesses, small home businesses want to get a retail location, so they're choosing our downtown. But to say that we are satisfied, and maybe I'm not putting words in the mouth, but that's what my take is going to be on it, that we're satisfied with leaving this shelter in our downtown, disturbing the peace and quiet of our downtown business and property owners, and allowing trespassing and crime and all the things that have gone along with that location to exist and persist. So I thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? And I don't really want to debate the topic tonight. If we move this forward, we'll debate it when it comes back to us. But my answer here is, let's not move this way. Recorded vote has been called.
Councillor Baldwin Sands,
No.
Councillor Clark,
No.
Councillor Gibson,
No.
Councillor Herbert,
No.
Councillor Kohler,
No.
Councillor Taylor, Councillor Taylor,
Yes.
Counselor Peters,
Yes.
Counselor Wookie,
No.
Your Worship,
No.
Your Worship, the motion is lost.
Next item?
No further items on the agenda under new business unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none?
Seeing none, we'll move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Counselor Peters, seconded by Counselor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Counselor Peters, seconded by Counselor Kohler, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Counselor
First
Baldwin
bylaw,
Sands.
please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 11th day of August, 2025.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Second bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Dr. Laura McCracken. This relates to health recruitment partnership incentive funding.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. Third bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Dr. Michael Pellizzari. This relates to health recruitment partnership incentive funding.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That item carries. Next item, please.
Fourth bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the city of St. Thomas. This is to remove a holding symbol from the property at 4 West Pearl Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That item carries. Fifth bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank. This relates to 24 John Street, barrier-free ramp and loading dock.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Next bylaw, please.
Sixth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. This relates to the Homelessness Reduction Innovation Fund.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That item carries. Next item, please.
Seventh bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city, the corporation of the municipality of Central Elgin, and Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. This relates to the Kettle Creek Leash-Free Dog Park.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Thank you. Eighth and final bylaw, please.
Eighth bylaw is third reading only, and this bylaw is a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the city of St. Thomas. This relates to the Norman Drain Branch A.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. I rise and report the successful passing of the 8 bylaws. Thank you.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Kohler, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 8 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next order of business under public notice. Notice is hereby provided that administration intends to introduce a report at the September 2nd, 2025 council meeting requesting approval of an unbudgeted operating budget expenditure relating to funding for 2 probationary firefighter positions. No further notices of motion. Your worship, at this time, there is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending acquisition of land, 3 labor relations matters, and a position plan procedure criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions and comments on going into closed session? I'll remind the folks watching at home and our guests in the gallery that we'll be going into closed session now. And we will only return from closed session to adjourn ourselves from the meeting tonight and pass anything that may have occurred during closed session. So all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. But
Your
anyway,
worship,
I'm
at
with
this
you.
time, I have a motion that council rise from closed session. Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor Wookey.
Great decision. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Oh, that was pretty good. We didn't need any help there.
No further items under open session, your worship. At this time, I have a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on adjournment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.